patterns to what we have seen over the past several days. We continue to encounter high levels of non-citizens at the border, but we did not see a substantial increase overnight or an influx at midnight. The men and women from the U.S. Border Patrol and the Office of Field Operations who are on the front lines are experienced in managing these types of situations and are doing outstanding work. It is still early, however, and our focus remains the same: processing people safely and humanely, but now with additional tools for us to deliver consequences quickly. This includes implementing the new circumvention of lawful pathways rule and maximizing our use of expedited removal, which of course includes vetting all non-citizens we encounter against national security and public safety systems to ensure that dangerous individuals are detained. The transition overnight is the result of nearly 2 years of preparation. We have 24,000 Border Patrol agents and officers at the southwest border and have surged thousands of law enforcement personnel from across the federal government, thousands of contractors, as well as military personnel to support our men and women as they handle what has been a challenging few days. As Secretary Mayorkas has said, there is a right way, a safe way, and a wrong way, an unlawful way to enter the United States. Those who arrive at the border without using a lawful pathway are presumed ineligible for asylum as part of the new rule that was issued yesterday. We are humanely processing non-citizens, placing them into removal proceedings and returning those without a legal basis to remain in the US. And people who do not use available pathways to enter the US now face tougher consequences, including a 5-year ban on re-entry and potential criminal prosecution. In addition to these consequences, we have led the largest expansion of lawful pathways for migrants to come to the US directly in decades. We continue to urge non-citizens to use those pathways, ignore the lies of smugglers, and not put their lives in danger. There were a few developments last night that I will run through very quickly. Following the lifting of CDC guidance concerning congregate settings in detention facilities, ICE will be adding thousands of beds for detained migrants to their detention system in the coming days. These new COVID mitigation protocols will eliminate the requirement that ICE perform COVID tests on all detainees at intake, transfer, or release, which will allow us to process detained non-citizens much more quickly and better manage our detention bed space. We have expanded the amount of appointments available in the CBP One app to 1,000 a day, which is 3 to 4 times as many as were processed in any given day prior to the pandemic. We have made changes to the Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela parole processes to maximize the hope for those who have been waiting for months by introducing a random selection process for half of each day's available slots, while the other half will continue to go in the order that we received applications in order to ensure that those who have been waiting the longest will be processed. Looking forward, while we continue to manage high levels of encounters, we are focused on ensuring the safety and security of our personnel, non-citizens, and our communities. We are closely watching some developments. First, we know smugglers will continue to use this transition to spread disinformation for migrants. They will look for any opportunity to make a profit at the expense of vulnerable non-citizens. We will continue to communicate clearly about what the change to Title VIII means and our actions to disrupt smugglers. Second, we are concerned about the impact litigation will have on our ability to execute this plan. This includes the harmful ruling from a Florida court last evening, which will result in unsafe overcrowding at CBP facilities and undercut our ability to efficiently process and remove migrants, which will risk creating dangerous conditions for Border Patrol agents as well as non-citizens in our custody. Republican and Democratic administrations alike have used this parole authority to protect the safety and security of migrants and the workforce. We will comply with the court order, and we are also assessing our next steps. But taking a step back, the lawsuits we are facing, frankly, from both sides of the aisle clearly demonstrate just how fundamentally broken our immigration system is. We have, for the better part of 2 decades now, experienced these surges in migration under presidents of both parties. We are committed to working innovatively within our statutory authorities to deal with this challenge, but we are clear-eyed that without bipartisan congressional action, we will continue to face these challenges on our border, and we invite Republicans and Democrats on the Hill to come together and work with us to once and for all address the underlying issues in our immigration system that are pulling so many migrants to the border. In sum, we will continue to do our best with the resources we have while we operate in this broken and outdated immigration system. We will carefully monitor the situation on the ground, including encounters, the space in our detention centers, and how other parts of the process are working, and will quickly make decisions on how to best allocate department-wide resources in the days to come. This remains an evolving situation, and we will continue to bring to bear the full weight of the federal government to ensure a safe, orderly, and humane process at the border. I'll now turn the floor over to the State Department to discuss our regional processing centers and regional collaboration to deal with this challenge. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I'm grateful to be here with Department of Homeland Security Assistant Secretary Blas Nunez Nieto, and to report on our regional migration management measures that the U.S. is implementing together with our regional partners. Forced displacement in the Western Hemisphere has reached historic highs and now accounts for 1/5 of the world's more than 100 million forcibly displaced persons. Migration affects every single country in the region, and no one country can provide solutions for millions of displaced people on its own. President Biden has been leading this effort. We've brought together countries in Los Angeles at the Summit of the Americas, and out of that came the Los Angeles Declaration on Migration and Protection, where countries together are stepping up to do things that they weren't doing before to help us get control of migration in the hemisphere. The Department of Homeland Security and Department of State are focused on solutions and have a robust plan to humanely manage the border through deterrence, enforcement, and diplomacy. I need to emphasize that while we promote safe, orderly, humane, and regular migration, our border is clearly not open to irregular migration. The Title 42 public health order ended at 11:59 p.m. yesterday, and the U.S. continues to enforce its immigration laws. We are working in the region with our partners, and we're leading regional efforts to bolster access to protection for those who need it, including to support efforts to provide life-saving aid and to integrate refugees and migrants into their communities, as well as expand access to lawful pathways to the United States. One of the new programs we're instituting and that will come to fruition in the weeks ahead is something we're calling the Regional Processing Center Initiative. Once fully operational, this initiative will make it easier for migrants to access lawful pathways from where they are and help them avoid putting their lives and their life savings in the hand of criminal actors. Our international partners yesterday launched the movilidadsegura.org website. This is an important step toward operationalizing the Regional Processing Centers Initiative. This website contains information on processes that will be available through the RPC initiative, and it will be updated regularly as new pathways come online and the initiative rolls out. Once operational, migrants will be able to use this site to request appointments for pre-screening. The site will also be updated to provide information on regular pathways to Spain and Canada that will be accessible through the initiative in the future. It's important to note for everyone that both the website and the services provided through the RPC initiative are free. We're implementing these new measures across the region in close coordination with select partners and countries. We draw on the success of recent processes that have significantly reduced irregular border crossings through a combination of expanded lawful pathways and swift removal of those who have entered the United States unlawfully. These initiatives work in tandem with the collaborative migration management strategy and root causes strategy developed early in the Biden administration. It also builds on the framework laid out in the June 2022 Los Angeles Declaration on Migration and Protection. With that, I will turn it back to our colleagues at DHS.
Thank you, Cheryl. And with that, we're happy to take a few questions. Just a reminder to use the Q&A function. And if you can, state your name and your outlet, please. I see one from Telemundo, Dalmia Bonmati. Blas, this might be for you. Can you elaborate on deportations of non-Mexican citizens to Mexico? Is ICE in charge of these deportations? Are they happening as soon as today? And what will Mexico do with them?
Yeah, thank you for that question. As the government of Mexico announced a couple of weeks ago now, they will continue to accept the removal of nationals from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela at the land border as part of our enforcement processes, which also provide a lawful pathway for individuals from those countries to come directly to the United States. Those individuals will be removed to Mexico directly from Border Patrol custody. Those returns will begin happening today, and I would obviously defer to the government of Mexico for questions about how they will be processed on the Mexican side of the border. Thank you.
Thanks, Blas. We have one from Rafael Bernal. Deterrent policies seem to be contributing to the perception of migrants as a threat. Is the administration doing anything to prevent that?
Yeah, thanks for that question. We have overseen over the last 2 years the most significant expansion of lawful pathways for migrants to come to the United States, frankly, in decades. And this includes, the CBP1 mobile application at our land border that has opened up port of entry processing by 3 to 4 times what the numbers were prior to the pandemic. So, we obviously are fully committed to providing safe and orderly lawful means for individuals to come to the U.S. to seek protection, or opportunity. That said, I think we have been clear that there have to be consequences at the land border for those who, despite having these opportunities to come lawfully, continue to cross unlawfully. And so, that is why we have implemented this new rule, and that is why we are significantly expanding our application of expedited removal at the border. Thanks.
Thanks, Blas. The next question comes from Efe, and I'm scrolling down to it. Apologies, I seem to have lost it. It was a question from Efe about what we saw overnight in the last couple of days about numbers of encounters.
Yeah, I think, like I said at the beginning, we have not seen any substantial increase in encounters overnight or, any influx at midnight. We still continue to see, elevated levels of encounters, and we should have, more information on that in the coming days. Thanks.
Thanks. And also Michelle Hackman, Wall Street Journal, asks, I think that you caught the first answer to this, but are you seeing evidence of crossings going down today or staying steady? And can you give us any data points if you believe the deterrent measures are working?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're obviously keeping a very close eye on encounters at the border. It's still early in the day, and people get processed through our custody throughout the day. So we don't really have anything we can report in terms of numbers right now. But we can say that we did not see any substantial increase in migration this morning.
Thanks, Blas. New York Times, Michael Shear is asking this to the State Department, I believe, Cheryl, how many people will be processed at the processing centers in Colombia and Guatemala, and what capacity will they have in the next weeks to come?
Thanks very much for the question. So we're working right now on a phased rollout of the Regional Processing Center Initiative. It's a network of centers across partner countries that will become available in the coming weeks. We'll have information on the movilidadsegura.org website as those come available, and people can sign up for appointments. I don't have specific information I can give you right now on how many people will be taken for appointments on day one, because we are working on that as a phased rollout.
Thanks, Cheryl. Next question comes from Maria Sacchetti. What is your plan to deal with unsafe crowding at Border Patrol facilities, given the federal judge's decision in Florida? And can you really hold up to 45,000 migrants in custody, as you mentioned, court records? And I'll just note here, Diane Solis from the Dallas News is also asking about Florida litigation as well. Looks like we have a few questions on that, Blas, if you want to address.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned in kind of the opening statement, we are concerned with the impacts of the court's ruling on our operations. All individuals we process are, go through rigorous public. Hey, you got a hot mic.
Yes.
Marcia.
The boss question.
You've got a hot mic, Marcia.
Sorry about that.
So we are concerned about the impact of the Florida litigation on our processing of individuals at the border, and specifically our ability to process people quickly, given the elevated encounter levels we are facing. It is important to note that regardless of how we process non-citizens in our facilities, they all undergo rigorous public safety and national security vetting. And any individuals who pose a threat, or have criminal records are referred to the appropriate authorities for detention. The Department of Justice is closely reviewing that decision, and I think you will see additional steps in that litigation very soon.
Thanks, Blas. Joel Rose with NPR is asking, do you have a sense of how changes to CBP1 app are working? We're hearing from migrants in Juarez that they are still frustrated in getting errors repeatedly.
Thanks for that question. We believe that the changes have been working well. I think it has taken a lot of the time pressure off non-citizens, who used to have to scramble to sign up for an appointment which would fill up very quickly. We fully appreciate that there is strong demand for the 1,000 slots that will be available every day. And so individuals may need to wait, but we believe the new process, which allows people to attempt to schedule their appointment throughout the day. And then we have a kind of random selection that chooses who gets the 1,000 slots a day, will be a much better process for everybody over time. And thus far, at least on our side, we have not seen any major issues, but we, welcome any, folks to forward to CBP any issues they see, because we, as with any kind of new rollout of a process or technology, we do expect that there may be some minor issues along the way, and we've been addressing those as they've been brought to our attention.
Thanks, Blas, and we'll have time for a couple more. The next one comes from Quinn Owen, ABC News. A question for the State Department about regional processing centers. Where are they now becoming operational, and why were they not set up during the first year of this administration?
Thanks very much for the question. We've been hard at work over the last 2 years of this administration. The Biden-Harris administration has led the largest expansion of lawful pathways for decades. We've been busy with items like the expanded parole process for up to 30,000 people per month from Venezuela, Nicaragua, Cuba, and Haiti, increased numbers of work visas, and expanded refugee admissions across the Western Hemisphere. We've also been busy at State Department with rebuilding our alliances throughout the region. We're working particularly in my bureau to provide assistance to vulnerable migrants throughout the region, to build local asylums and national asylum systems in host countries, and to provide assistance to migrants to integrate into the communities where they're being hosted. Finally, I will say on the RPCs themselves, this is a new and innovative initiative. It is rolling out. It's a first of its kind initiative across the hemisphere. And it's something that we want to make sure we roll out properly and in the right sequence. So we're working with our partners to make sure that we can have that successful rollout.
Okay, thanks. Last two questions. Next goes to Camilo Montoya Galvez from CBS. Republican-led states are asking a judge to block the parole process for Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans. The ACLU just asked another judge to block the asylum eligibility restriction. If these policies get blocked in court, what's your plan B or C to manage these historically high numbers at the border?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Camila. I mean, I would just say what I said in the beginning, which is, we have seen over the last couple of decades these surges in migration under presidents of both parties. We have seen presidents of both parties try to deal with this challenge using executive action. Obviously, we have been doing that ourselves, and we have been, I think, very innovative in trying to address the challenges we faced using our executive authorities. The Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela process has been, very effective in reducing encounters and flows throughout the region for nationals from those countries. And it is, unfortunate that one of the states that has benefited from this enforcement process, Texas, has been leading litigation against it for, what we believe is purely political reasons. But, we also, as you noted, are getting sued by the ACLU for the circumvention of lawful pathways rules. Again, we believe that rule is well within our statutory authority. And, again, we have, tied it to an expansion, a historic expansion, as Cheryl just noted, of our lawful pathways for people to come directly to the United States. At the end of the day, we are just clear-eyed that there is no lasting solution here that does not involve the U.S. Congress. And so we really do need members of Congress to work together in a bipartisan manner. No one party can solve this problem on its own in order to put in place a framework that can, work over time. Thanks.
Thanks, Blas. Our last question is from Sandra Sanchez. I think she's down in Texas. This one is for DOD. Does DOD plan to send more active military to the border? If so, where and when and what circumstances would prompt this specifically?
Sure, thanks for that. So DOD sends troops to the border in response to requests for assistance that come from DHS. At this particular time, we are fulfilling all of the active requests that we have now. And we have not received any additional requests for troops to come down to the border this year.
Thanks so much to everyone who joined today. If we didn't get to your question, feel free to email us at mediainquiry@dhs.hq.gov. And we'll be sure to try to get back to you. Thanks so much to our speakers, Blas, Rebecca, and Cheryl. Thank you.